Welcome to the Friday Power Lunch, a weekly show amplifying the voices of the Virginia grassroots. Each week, we provide engaging conversations about politics, culture, and women making change. Produced by the unstoppable women of Network Nova, our motto is, when we vote, we win. The Friday Power Lunch is recorded before a live Zoom audience. Follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and show us some love and become a sponsor through Patreon. The Friday Power Lunch. Badass women getting things done.
It is October 7th, and welcome to the Friday Power Lunch. I'm Katherine White, your host, bringing you the guests, the issues, the action, amplifying the voice of the grassroots to get things done. And of course, we love to make politics fun. And you know, today's theme is perseverance is our power. And we got some powerhouses to talk about that. So I'm so excited to bring up Dr. Elizabeth Griffith. We will call you Betsy, author and historian, your new book that's out, Formidable, American Women and the Fight for Equality, 1920 to 2020. And I mean, that's just a small amount of book to write, just 100 years. I mean, right? So how are you doing, Betsy?
I'm doing well. I'm delighted to be at the Friday Power Lunch. It's energizing to be with women like you. And we need all that perseverance because we've got farther to go.
Yeah, I'm going to say that we had such a blast already talking in the back green room. And I feel like you're a girlfriend. We could talk all day. I'm very excited. And where are you at right now? Are you in?
I'm in Washington.
Oh, you're in DC. Okay, good. Right across the river, as we say.
Longtime Virginia resident, just moved over here recently.
Yeah, great. Well, great. We're so excited to talk about the book Formidable because it really is what we need to be. We talk about perseverance, so we will unpack that with you later. So thank you, Betsy, for being here. Very exciting. And I'd like to call up our next guest, which is Delegate Candy King. Candy King, House District 2. Get on the screen and talk about how are you doing? What is going on? I love your hair. Is this new?
This is new. You know, part of our power is changing whenever we feel like it. You want something different, go for it, girl.
I like it. I do love it. And I'm so glad you're coming on because the perspective of what you're going to bring today to our conversation is so important, especially bringing into the local politics of applying that pressure. So good. Are you ready?
I am ready. I'm so excited. We are going to talk about applying pressure and being your authentic self.
Oh, I like that. That's important. I'm glad the room is filling up. It's Friday, as we say, so we're glad that you're here with your dancing shoes on. And lastly, yeah, you got them on, keep them on. KRISTINA Hagen is here, and she's a long time as friend. We've been in action with KRISTINA with the Friendly Family Economy. You are the Virginia campaign director for a Friendly Family Economy. What is happening over there, friend?
So first and foremost, thank you so much for everything that y'all have been such great partners to Family Friendly Virginia for such a long time now. And so we're so excited to be here and have this opportunity to share some of what we've been working on this year and what we're looking forward to as we, look ahead to Election Day and beyond. So
yeah, that crazy Election Day and beyond stuff, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm a little frazzled as we were like 34 days out. So we are excited to talk to you. And really the policy piece is important. So when we talk about what we're doing, what women need and economically, what you guys have been fighting for, we can't wait to talk to you about that. So thank you for being here. And I know that you have your little one and you're 2 off, so you won't have to be interrupted. So not even a dog at home like mine come around me. Well, great. It's great to see you, friend KRISTINA. So thank you. All right.
Thanks for having me.
So 3 great guests. Can you imagine? It's Friday. Like I said, I hope you're comfortable in the room, have your best shoes on and your cup of coffee and a friend by your side. Also, we always want to talk about the rules of the road, and we have the chat. We want you to be in that chat, talk to each other, because that really is how we build community. If you have any questions, we have our Michelle McKinney up there. Michelle, give a wave. She's our newcomer liaison. So if you've not been in the room before and don't know about our crazy show, she'll help you navigate that. But make sure you keep friendly in the chat. Any super negativity stuff will get you booted. So keep it authentic, but keep it real. All right. And then our favorite part, the after chat at 1 o'clock. If we're lucky, we go to the after chat, and that's the best place where we get to unmute and really build our community together. So make sure you stay for that. And we always like to plug our show. It's the Friday Power Lunch. Make sure you think about becoming a patron. This is how we work month to month. Your support really keeps the lights on, and it really makes us feel great about the work we're doing. So for a few bucks, support us. Pretty easy. All right. And so I want to bring up, let's start this power chat with Candy King, Delegate King. Let's just get right out of the box. I mean, tomorrow, I just, want to talk about one quick thing with you. Tomorrow is the Women's March. When we talk about persistence, or is any local activity that you're doing around tomorrow's big Women's March? It's going to be across the country.
Sure. So tomorrow, I unfortunately am not participating in any activities because I will be knocking doors, making calls, and out for Knoxtober for my future Congresswoman, Abigail Spanberger. And so, but I am so inspired and amazed to see all of the women and allies and supporters going out and being persistent and continuing to not let the issues that we care about lose steam.
Yeah, I think the steam is like when we talk about the pressure, keeping it always boiling up. I am going to, my goal is to knock doors tomorrow, get out early, knock doors, and then go to the march. And I think I'm biting off more than I can chew, but whatever, that's how we roll. But yeah, I just wanted to ask about that. Well, let's get into this subject. We talk about perseverance and pressure equals progress. What's your point of view on this subject? We have this wonderful historian here today to talk about this 100 years. But I wanted to make sure that we brought your insights into this conversation as well.
Sure. And I want to say thank you to all my friends at Network Nova who I would not be sitting here without, because y'all applied the pressure when we had 5 days to keep this seat in Democratic hands. You all applied the pressure, and that's why we were able to make some of the progress that we've made. This book, I'm super excited about the book because I recently had the opportunity to watch a great movie called The Woman King about the Dahomey warriors in Africa who fought for centuries to protect their communities against colonialism. And as I was watching the movie, I thought about my grandmother and other women in my life and other women throughout history. And I thought, this is why there's such a focus for folks not to know their history, to not know how powerful they are, the legacy that you come from, and that women did not just wake up and start fighting 10, 15 years ago. As we see with the book, this is a 100-year journey on just the right to vote, but even it extends longer than that. And so I think it's so important for us to know that women have always been fighting for equality. We never accepted the second-class citizenship that this country or its predecessors tried to force upon us.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. And, when I was thinking last Friday, when we saw the new judge, Ketanji Jackson Brown, I mean, what are just those proud moments that we should have in this, struggle that we have? That was just so amazing. And we do have a clip of that if we want to show that real quick. Robbin, if you have that clip ready, when we're talking about where we got inspired to talk about perseverance.
And I appreciate the opportunity to speak to young people. I appreciate it very much. I do it a lot. The young people are the future, and so I want them to know that they can do and be anything. And I'll just say that I will tell them what an anonymous person said to me once. I was walking through Harvard Yard my freshman year. As I mentioned, I went to public school, and I didn't know anything about Harvard until my debate coach took me there to enter a speech competition, and I thought, this is a great university. It was basically one of the only ones I'd seen, and I said, maybe I'll apply when I'm a senior. But I get there, and whoa, so different. I'm from Miami, Florida. Boston is very cold. It was rough. It was different from anything I'd known. There were lots of students there who were prep school kids like my husband, who knew all about Harvard, and that was not me. And I think the first semester I was really homesick. I was really questioning, do I belong here? Can I make it in this environment? And I was walking through the yard in the evening, and a Black woman I did not know was passing me on the sidewalk, and she looked at me, and I guess she knew how I was feeling, and she leaned over as we crossed and said, "Persevere." I would tell them to persevere.
I just get chills every time I hear her speak, because she is telling a story and experience that is so resonates with so many women, but especially Black women. And I cannot speak enough about how important it is to have Justice Jackson sitting on the Supreme Court. Many people don't recognize, but for hundreds of years, Black women have fought in every level of the criminal justice system except the Supreme Court. So for those Sadie T.M. Alexanders, Constance Baker Motley, all of those women who did so much work to ensure we had, integrated schools and rights and all of those issues and things that we enjoy, to see her ascend to our highest court at such a critical time in the lifespan of women's rights, it just gives me chills. And it's such a reminder that we can persevere.
Yeah, I mean, the emotion in that voice is something that always gets me. And just listening to her, like you said, but that emotion behind it just bottled up. I mean, but now to see her seated and to make her first arguments, and she is just not holding back.
She's not playing.
She's not playing. No, she isn't. And I think, like you said, as we go, we feel like we have these steps back, and then yet there's this step forward. And then you're like, yeah, it matters that she's there, this representation, correct? I mean,
absolutely.
And the ability to argue the way she does, and you realize it's the timeliness, not of just obviously who she is, but how she argues and how she puts the subject matter up that just destroyed these pitiful arguments on the other side.
Absolutely. And, I am one of the very small percentage of members of the General Assembly who is not a lawyer. But what is so inspiring to me is that I'm a student of history. I love history. I've always loved history. And when I was in high school, I had a teacher tell me to go and read the dissenting opinions of Justice Thurgood Marshall. He was in a court much like the court today that was stacked against equality stacked against human rights, stacked against all that is good and great for our country and for people. But he never stopped showing up and writing these brilliant arguments about family, humanity, individual rights. He still showed up every day. And what we see with Justice Jackson is a manifestation of all of the good work that he did and all of the others and the way they showed up, even when the odds were stacked against them.
Yeah, I mean, that's so important what you said, those dissensions, what comes out of there. Be interesting what going on in Betsy's mind right now. I'm sure she's thinking all about that, because it's true. Those arguments are so important, right? And I know that they set the stage for the 50 years, even before we got to this overturning a Roe. It was Diley Lithwitz's book about one of these champion lawyers that is Patty Murray, I think her name is. And just, right?
Paula Murray.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I wasn't planning to talk about this, but I was like, these are so important, these years when you feel like nothing is going, that maybe history isn't being made, but it is being made behind the scenes in these writings, and made the groundwork for these great decisions to happen.
For sure. And I'll share in the chat when we get finished. There's a great documentary about Paula Murray. I mean, Black woman,
yes,
non-binary, different, religious person fighting for all of these progressive values. She just lived such a remarkable life and contributed in such a great way. And history in my book didn't learn not till recently. So I love it that we could always learn. And I'm always grateful when you can come on the show. I hope you can stick around. I know you have to maybe, drop off for a meeting today. I'm not really sure. Can you stick around a little bit? Yeah, I can definitely stick around a little bit. And I just want to say one thing. As we talk about the subject of perseverance, I just want to encourage all 67 people on this call to trust yourself. I've been in so many moments politically where there was talk, do this, say this, do this, be on this side of the issue. Trust yourself, because what we see right now all around the world is that the girls are tired. Mm-hmm. We see it in Iran. We see women fighting with their lives, with everything that they have, for the right to be treated like human beings, to be treated like equals in a society that they built. The girls are tired. So we have to trust ourselves, trust our decision-making, and most importantly, take care of ourselves so we can persevere in the long term.
Those are good words to end this segment on. I think everybody in the room is nodding because it's great advice. And the girls are tired. That's going to be the name of Betsy's next book.
Girls are tired, okay?
They're tired and they're coming for you. No, great. So thank you. And speaking of what we want to do when we talk about being authentic and moving forward with what we think maybe would make a difference, is we decided to go with this thing called Pink the Vote. And that's what I'm going to talk about next. We want to make sure that this is on everybody's mind in this election. I know that people are trying to deflect away from what really is about. Yes, inflation is an issue, but abortion and women's rights they're kitchen table issues. They're not going away, and we're going to show up to vote. So we're doing this new campaign called Pink the Vote. And we have yard signs, we have magnets, we have the link. You can go to the link in the chat and order a sign today. It will come in a couple of days. What we hope to do is inspire everybody in this room to Pink the Vote, to start a campaign of your own, hashtag it. We'll talk about the social media piece later, but right now, on your car, in your window, and even if you don't have time to order a sign, go get a piece of pink cardboard and put it in your car and hashtag Pink the Vote. Put it in your window. When you used to have the crossing guard, they would put the little sign in their window, safety sign. Let's put pink in every window in Virginia and pink the damn vote, because we need to remind people why this is so crucial in the midterms. Because in Virginia, in 2023, we're heading into a real big battle, and this campaign is going to continue to 2024. So yeah, we're really excited about it. We want to start this. Candy, everybody in the room, we just thought, shoot, we're doing something about damn time, because we've had enough. All right. So thank you, Candy, for being here. And I want to say that I'm very excited to have our next guest up, Betsy Griffith, author of Formidable. I'm so glad you're in the room today.
I'm delighted to be here and to meet Candy and be inspired by her and to be part of this conversation. If I could just say that Sadie Alexander and Constance Baker Motley and Polly Murray and Thurgood Marshall are all in my book, because this book is about what women did after they won the vote in 1920. It was not a complete victory. Not every woman was enfranchised. Native American women, Asian immigrant women were left out, and Black women were not protected in their voting rights until the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And now we know how that act is being nibbled to death by people who do not want to guarantee voting rights for everyone in this country. And voting rights are as essential to protect as are reproductive rights, if women are going to have an equal role in our democracy. So I'm delighted to be with you power women, and I'm glad to speak to perseverance.
No, I'm so glad you're here. I mean, I was kind of chuckling with the 100 years, but it is true. I mean, we've been fighting for hundreds of years, correct? But you're focusing on after the vote, which I find very interesting, because a lot of us know the struggle leading up to the vote. But so let's talk about what inspired the book and of why you felt it was necessary to document. Let's go there first, and then I have some other questions I'd love to ask you.
Thanks, Catherine. Well, you're exactly right. It was a century of struggle to get the vote, because it starts in the roots of abolition. And then it's been 100 years since we had the vote, and some women have made enormous progress, but not all women have made equal progress. So we have a lot farther to go. And now we're confronting new roadblocks, because I truly don't think that without reproductive rights, women can achieve everything else that they're capable of in education and employment and just in fulfilling their lives. And as KRISTINA will tell us, without adequate, affordable, accessible childcare and family leave, that's another inhibition. But you have to start with the basics. So enormous progress and not enough. Inspired, well, I've been teaching women's history for a long time. So a lot of this I knew and a lot of it I didn't know. And when I began teaching adult classes as well as young people, I thought there's a longing here to know more. White women wanting to know more about Black history, Black women interested in the intersections of white and Black history, because for too long, due to the deep racism in our country and the extent of segregation keeping communities apart, women who had an enormous amount in common, change agents, middle class, educated, wives and mothers, and women less privileged than that, both Black and white women, could have been natural allies, but they are kept apart by the politics and the racism of our country. The cover, just to make a note, the cover photo on my book is from the 1977 International Women's Year meeting in Houston. That was really one of the first photographs I could find of diverse women working together in public. Because while they'd begun to make alliances throughout the 50s and 60s, they still kept them pretty underground, because it was so controversial for groups of women to work together. I thought it was important to talk about how hard it was to make additional gains, that just having the vote was not enough if women couldn't come together as allies and push ahead. They made very little progress in the first decade. A journalist wrote, the 19th Amendment promised almost everything and accomplished almost nothing. So it would take a long time for women to accrue more useful power.
Yeah, I mean, so what was striking to me, I'm I graduated with women's studies background from Ohio State.
Lucky you, wasn't
Lucky
taught
me.
when I was coming up.
Right, and so I was one of the first waves of that 1983. You can get a bachelor's, right? The embarrassing part of it is here I am, so many years ago, discovering, like you had mentioned, not all of our history, even in being a student of women's studies, not really covering adequately the issues between the Black and white activists and the racism and the flawed characters of some of these people that we, that are in your book. Obviously, that's important, that no one is perfect, but not understanding even our complete history. So your book really tackles this subject matter where it before really wasn't addressed. Did you find that to be so important that this was something on your mind? Because like me, you're like, oh my gosh, how did I not know this?
Katherine, one of my goals was to get it all in one place where it would be accessible to any reader, male, female, young or old. You could use this book as a good read because it's suspenseful. There are villains, there are heroines. You can also use it as a reference book. I think every political woman should have it on her bookshelf to just refer to for good speech background. But many really noted scholars have done deep work on individual topics within my book. They've looked at what was happening with anti-Semitism in the 40s, or what was happening with the increase of lynching in the 20s. They've done studies of individual things, but no one has woven it together all in one book. And again, tried to bring Black and white women's lives together. And clearly there's a lot of other diversity in it as well, but those are the major players, would be the Black and white change agents.
Great. Talk about the parallel movement and then where they finally intersect. I found that interesting, where, you have the Divine Nine, you have these societies where Black women are finding community because they're excluded, obviously, from this, the white institutions, and they build their power in a different way, and they're running parallel, but then finally there is an intersection. Talk a little bit about that and why that's so important, especially when we talk about building power now.
Katherine, very good point. I'm going to start in 1920 very briefly. So the Carrie Chapman Catt had the capacity to pull together an alliance that was maybe lasted for 3 years. Black, white, ethnic, young, old, published things in every language, got a lot of women to come together to finally get suffrage through the Congress and ratified. But then all those women who wanted the vote for a different reason, they all had causes of their own, that alliance splinters. Mm. White women splinter as well. They splinter into the social justice activists who are going for immigrant rights, factory women, ACLU. They have a whole list of things they're trying to accomplish, including maternal and infant health, which was really bad then and worse now. Mm-hmm. You had the women who were pursuing the Equal Rights Amendment. You had women who were advocates of Margaret Sanger and birth control, really not in a political area. Black women had such a broader agenda. They were really a Black men and women's movement. They wanted to protect their communities. They wanted to end lynching. They wanted to get rid of Jim Crow. They wanted to get rid of quotas in admissions to nursing school or professional schools. They wanted to deal with the terrible outcome of segregation, which was poor sewage and poor schools and poor neighborhoods. So they had a huge agenda. But whereas white women could pursue their goals in public and not be at risk, Black women were at risk all the time, as were their families. And so they worked, I won't necessarily say more quietly, but less visibly, out of church basements as agricultural agents, public health nurses, teachers in communities. They were always spreading the word about how to vote, how to register, how to organize. And they wouldn't become more public really until the 50s and 60s. They backed a lot of Black male leaders, partly because they'd been emasculated by Jim Crow, but they begin to take the stage more late 40s, 50s into the 60s. White women have not been as active in a parallel way, really not. But they get re-inspired by the Black civil rights movement in the 50s and re-energize the women's rights movement. The pill helps that. So in the 60s, you've got a lot boiling. You've got civil rights, you've got women's rights, you've got anti-war, lots of things are going on. And that's the beginning of the cross-fertilization where they're working together. White college students go down to work in Freedom Summer. White women begin to ally. The woman who bailed Rosa Parks out of jail was a white woman who had helped her attend the Highlander School with Septimus Clark the summer before, although Rosa Parks had a 20-year career as an NAACP activist in Montgomery. So there's a lot going on. And the tragedy is that these groups of women did not ally sooner and are not that well allied now. When you talk about perseverance is our power, and really the length of American history, women have in many ways been powerless. And what gave them power was moral authority and alliances when they came together to build community. So your building community together is exactly the right thing. We need to reach out and find common ground and create alliances.
Yeah, talk about the moral authority, what you mean by that for the...
Well, you know, this applies throughout American history. Women for so long, it's hard for young people to understand this, had no power at all. Right. They weren't quite as powerless as enslaved women, but white women did not have the right to their bodies, their clothing, their children, their property, their earnings, all those things. Nobody had political rights. So you were making a case that you wanted political power without any power, financial or political. And then when they get it, they are ignored because women, so the 19th Amendment doubled the size of the electorate, enfranchised 26 million women, and they did not vote. The lowest voting turnout in a presidential election in the history of America since 1820 was the 1920 election. And they didn't vote in 22 or 24. And so men who had been afraid that they were going to vote and insist on things like maternal and infant health and better conditions in factories and a whole long list, thought, well, we don't need to worry about them. They're not voting.
Not really voting. So
and white women don't show up to vote until the beginning of the 50s, the 60s. And of course, the gender gap doesn't show up until the 80s. And Black women always want to vote and are kept from voting. Right. So it takes a long time for women to get shrewd and effective about how to use power and increase power.
No, I think that's a really good point. That's something I really did not know. And I was so interested to learn that from your book, that they didn't know how to use that power, right? You would think there would be everybody just trying to try out like a new bicycle. I want to go vote. I mean, what it just off the top of your mind?
They had absorbed all the negative messages of the antis.
Yeah.
The number of women who wanted to vote was really quite a minority in the country. It may have been 2 million women, but that's not every woman. And there were many women who felt that husbands were the head of the household and husbands represented them. Of course, that didn't count all the women who didn't have husbands or, who were not protected in that way. And who says that your husband isn't necessarily going to represent your interests in the voting booth. They had been told that women did not belong in the political arena, that they were not smart enough or informed enough. They absorbed too much of that. They were held back by sort of sex role socialization, that they are dainty ladies who ought not to be in the political fray. I think we've overcome that.
Yeah, well, I think, you flip it now today and we're the majority of the electorate, but do we use it? We still have the issue.
I need to interrupt, Katherine, because we are the majority of the population.
Right.
We are registered in larger numbers than men. We turn out in larger numbers than men. And the highest number of representation women have at any level of political power is 34% of school boards and city councils, 29% of state legislatures, 27% of the Congress, 23 senators, 9 governors, which makes 18%. We are nowhere near represented. Within that representation, though, good for women, there's a lot of diversity. Women provide most of the diversity in the United States Congress. So we bring a lot to the table when we come. But it's just not enough for 100 years of voting.
No, you made that point and you just flipped it. I just love it. I mean, just showing the numbers of we aren't, like you said, we've made progress, but not enough, right? So in some takeaways before we move on, I wanted to see your opinion after the Alito decision. When you're writing this book, you must have thought to yourself, holy shit, like, okay, I have to come out with another book, which I think you are. But were you ready in writing this book and knowing what was maybe possibly happening, and then seeing and then listening or reading the Alito decision? I mean, what are your takeaways just from that, of where we're going when we talk about we're making so much progress? They need to do this to hold us back. I mean,
I am so glad that Justice Brown Jackson is on the court and is giving lessons every day, is schooling the court, because Justice Alito's interpretation of American history is flawed. It is incorrect. He wrote in the Dobbs decision that abortion is not deeply rooted in the nation's history. That is wrong. American women, Native Americans, enslaved women, people have been getting abortions in this country and in the world ever since they've been getting pregnant and had to deal with circumstances that the timing was bad. They didn't want to have a baby at that moment. And years ago in this era, in the colonial era, the early years of our country, abortion was legal. Women, it was performed by midwives. Female professionals, medical professionals, were taking care of women patients. Only women knew. It was legal until quickening, which is 24 weeks when you feel babies kicking. Only women knew when that happened, and only midwives were helping them, quote, restore menstrual flow, which was the language. And until the 1850s in this country, it was mostly legal. It begins to be illegal when the American Medical Association organizes a bunch of male doctors, and it feels competition from the midwives and wants to shut down the practice of midwifery. So they begin to outlaw midwives require licensing or they can't practice. They outlaw the use of certain herbs, and they pass these statewide or territorial wide. So Massachusetts in 1845, the Arizona Territory similarly. So you begin to have restrictions on abortion. The Catholic Church allowed abortion until 1871, until, quote, ensoulment, which was also 24 weeks. And then it felt it wanted to increase the population of Catholics in America because they were being discriminated against as immigrants. So they thought, we'll just have a few more. So abortion has always been subject to male political influence, and it needs to be controlled by women. It's an intimate issue for women, and they need to be able to have bodily control of themselves. And until we do, we're never going to achieve our goals. So we'll need to persevere some more. We had a century of struggle to get suffrage, a century of struggle to succeed as far as we have, and we're starting a whole new one. Yeah,
and I couldn't let you go in this conversation without talking about what you see, especially from a teacher's perspective, a librarian's perspective, for understanding yourself, teaching young people about history. And you see also not only this attack on women's rights, we also see the attack on truth, and we see this pushback against any talk about history. And from a historian's perspective, what is going on, do you think, in this country or across the world right now, where people are really insecure about this and they are trying to attack the truth?
Katherine, you identified it when you said insecure. It's a fear of facts. There is a reality of American history. Some of it we can be very proud of. Some of it we need to say didn't do so well. Genocide of Native tribes, enslavement, internment of the Japanese, horrible immigration policies. There are things that happen, and we need to accept that they're part of the history and then learn from the lessons what we can do better. But I think American history and civics should be taught every year from kindergarten on in age-appropriate ways, but in factual ways. Our country is flawed, but that does not mean it cannot be great, that it cannot meet the promises of the founders. I mean, what other country in the world has the goal of equality under law? and equal rights for all. That should be our goal, and we should stick to it.
Right.
And see it as the goal. But our divisions now, I heard Peter Baker, who's written a new book about Trump, speak at the Miller Center at UVA. And he was saying years ago, if you're my age, we all got our news from similar sources. And so we all shared the same fact base. We could debate what we thought about those facts, but we were using the same facts. Now we have facts and, in my view, non-facts, and people are not using the same information. So it's very hard to persuade people with the non-facts that they might change their mind or expand their thinking.
Well, this is why
the fear issue.
Yeah, your book is so important. And I want to tell everybody in the room that to get the book, Formidable, American Women and the Fight for Equality, I think this is, like you said, a reference book. And you're working on your next book right now. Is that correct?
Well, I had another book in mind, but you were right. The Dobbs decision is making me think perhaps another book.
Forward or prologue or whatever you call that when you write it, just like, okay. We did have Dahlia Lithwick on about her book, Lady Justice, and she said she had to go back and do a revision. And I can't imagine that you won't be doing the same in some way. And we look forward to your view. It's so important, your work. And I'm just so grateful to have you on. And a shout out to Pat Worth, who is also her persistence and perseverance in getting the statue down, the memorial to the suffragettes down in Lorton has been, our journey with her. And she's just amazing. And I don't know if you've had it. Obviously, you've been down there to see that and probably gave speeches over there. And
I have.
Ribbon cutting.
When we think about people who don't vote, they need to be reminded of the women who picketed and went to jail and were force-fed, treated horribly. They need to think about the African Americans who were turned away time and again, who were beaten, Black women who never left home without toothpaste and toilet paper in their purses because they knew they were going to end up in jail. People risk so much for us to have the vote that we need to show up all the time.
Yes, that's a good note to end on. Betsy, thank you. I hope you can stick around for the after chat or hang in the room with us. I want to make sure everybody, I hope you're enjoying yourself. Hands up. I see Pearl with her thumbs up. It's great. What I want to do is go one more time at our pink if Heidi, our social media diva, can come up real quick. We want to make sure that we come up with ideas of how to make sure voting is on everybody's mind. So Heidi, social media diva, we are going to get out some graphics, correct?
Yes. I'll put them on the Friday Power Lunch Twitter, and I'll put them on my Twitter as well, and anybody can steal them. We also have a link to a folder on the Google Drive that anybody can use and share at will.
Yes, and we'll be making more of these. This is our first swipe at it. Like I said, we're launching this campaign. We're going to try to be pushing it out all week. If you go now to buy one of these signs, again, it will be in your hopefully mailbox this week, and we can put them out in the yards. And I'm getting my car magnet so I can drive around town. And hey, like I said, get a pink piece of paper, put pink out there, and let's remind people to pink the vote. And that's just our fun way to remind people what is at stake. All right.
I also have a suggestion for those that are into crafts. You could, if you have a Cricut or other sort of cutting machine, you could use it to make a vinyl cutout to put on your car windows.
Hey, that's good. We love craftivism.
A little bit of craftivism.
Do we have a video to play of one of the TikToks? Let's do it.
If you have an opinion, maybe you should shove it, or maybe you could scream it.
Woo, who will vote? I love it. Who are you going to bring to vote? I love it. All right. So I am so excited for the next segment because, it's all about also policy. We love to bring that in the room. So I'd love to bring up KRISTINA Hagen. Hello, my friend.
Hello. How are you doing?
Good. Just to remind everybody, you're the Virginia campaign director for the Family Friendly economy. And I, want to remind everybody, and with Betsy here, she'll know more than I do, but this goes back to 1919 when they are talking about activists fighting for maternal leave, maternal rights. This is a long fight, and here you are again today, but this is not new.
Yeah, and talk about persevering in the face of challenges, right? And so obviously this year has thrown a couple of curveballs into the fight and everything that we're working on. But so excited to be here and excited for your ongoing partnership, as well as we have continued to make this case for paid leave in Virginia. And so I'm happy to dive right in if that's all right.
Yeah, well, I was just like looking at this. I just will tell everybody in the room. On November 29th, 1919, the Maternity Protection Convention of 1919 called for 12 weeks of maternity leave, free medical care during and after pregnancy, job guarantees upon return to work, periodic breaks to nurse infant children. And this is before women get the right to vote. And again, like Betsy had mentioned, these things, policymakers got really worried, and they kept putting up these and realized that women weren't showing up to vote, so these issues kind of went away. So here we are now, almost 100 years later, still fighting for the same thing. So I just want to remind people again, it's, history's like a big circle. We just keep going back and round and round. But it's so great that you guys have just been persistent on this issue. So tell us about the progress you've made in the General Assembly this year. The last 2 years, and then where we're going to go next with this.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, we have been, championing this for several years now, and trying to get a statewide paid leave policy passed in Virginia, so that we can start to really acknowledge, frankly, the challenges that working families face in the absence of being able to take paid leave. Right now, even unpaid leave under the Family Medical Leave Act of 1993 is out of reach for 55% of working families, because they either can't afford to take the leave, or they simply aren't eligible for the job protections that it entails. And so as we continue to make this case, we've been proud to partner for several years now with Senator Boysko in the Senate. We actually are currently talking to a couple of different House members. I may have had a conversation with Delegate King's office last week about who will pick it up in the House as we look ahead to the 2023 session. And so, we are just, the time is now, it's one of those things that it's been studied, and we've had a legislative review, we've had an administrative review under the previous administration, we've had an actuarial study now, and the results have been clear. Virginians need an affordable option to allow them to take that paid time away from work, whether it's to welcome a new child into the home, or to care for themselves or a loved one when a health emergency strikes. And this paid leave proposal is the solution. And so the time for action is now. And so we're excited to be reintroducing a bill as we look ahead to 2023. And we're going to be counting on each and every one of you to help make this happen. We need folks to call their senators, call their delegates, tell them that it's not enough to listen to the stories. It's not enough to say, yeah, I know it's a problem and it's something we got to solve. We have a solution. It's right here. And so tell them that not only do we need their support for the bill, we need them to sign on to the bill as co-patrons. We need to really show just how impactful, just how desperately families need this. And so, and it's through our voices, through our collective power, through our perseverance that I think we're going to finally start to see some movement.
Well, let me ask you a question. Where is the new Governor Youngkin on this? I know probably right now he's busy counting votes somewhere. We know that there's an issue with the voting. Where is he on this? Because this is a very family-friendly thing. And so where are you, you find his administration may be supportive?
I would love to get a bill on his desk, and our work will just continue, right? And so he'll have a choice on where he lands on that. And he certainly talks a big game about wanting to stand with parents and wanting to fight for families. And so here's a great way to do that.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too, and on the sense of the Republicans or Democrats that are supporting you. Do you have a bipartisan look at this? How many Republicans do you have in the House, for instance? How many, Democrats? Where are you with thinking and getting it passed?
We have seen, we've had individual conversations with members that have shown support. I think that as we continue to build our case, it is so important to be highlighting the stories of individuals who are having to make difficult decisions. And so that's why, again, and it's both sides of the aisle, right? Both sides of the aisle need to be hearing from us as we continue to make this case, because we know that fundamentally, these are policies that are popular with both sides of the aisle. They are popular with Republican voters. They are popular with Democratic voters. They are popular with independent voters. And so as we can't neglect one side of the aisle versus another. Especially in the current landscape, we need to have some bipartisan appeal there. I think we do have our work cut out for us in terms of, frankly, who has been there with us in this fight all along, and it has tended to be one side of the aisle that has been there for us.
Let me just ask you. I feel like that. I'm wondering if that could change in the using. There's an opportunity to point out the hypocrisy again, as we say, when these legislators are talking about, not giving women any choices over their bodily autonomy. And then this kind of care in these states is so important when you're talking about maternal care, care of the family, care to take, care of other little human beings, as like you've been doing on your time off recently. So do you think this is some leverage about really showing up for who's showing up really for families, or if there's maybe some opportunity of leverage with this going on?
I think so. And honestly, if I'd love to, I'm going to drop a link in the chat here to a poll memo that was conducted by one of our partner organizations, the Paid Leave for All Action PAC, did a poll. I think it was in August, I want to say. They polled over 1,000 likely 2022 voters across 6 Senate battleground states across Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And what is evident in this poll data is that the battleground voters who are going to decide Senate control are prioritizing these types of policies. Since Roe fell, the stakes have been even higher for programs like paid leave. And we're really seeing an intensification of support. In November of 2021, 70% of battleground voters supported paid leave. But now that forced pregnancy and birth are a reality for many people across the country, that support has jumped to 81% of battleground voters supporting paid family, parental, and medical leave for all workers. And so that is a double-digit jump in support for paid leave. And that's because we know now, we know what the consequences of forced birth are compounded without paid leave or any comprehensive care policies. And so this is a case that we just need to continue to reinforce, is that not only are these policies popular, but they're also necessary. We have got to keep presenting the data. We have to keep showing that there's broad bipartisan support among voters. And so we need that to translate into legislative votes as well.
No, it's so true. And when I quoted at the very beginning what we saw happen back in 1919 and, fighting for these same rights, is that internationally, most developed countries adopted some form of these policies, except the United States. And, so we do have a lot of ground to make up. And that's the darn truth, that even after all this time, all these other countries have this to support families and working folks. And we still are behind, and we have a long way to go. As Betsy say, it's not enough. We've made progress, but not enough. So Kristina, we thank you for being here. It's great to have you back in the room. I know we look forward to going down at the session this particular after the election and working on policy that makes lives better, and we have to persevere. So thank you, my friend, for being here. It's great to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, everybody, we're getting up on the hour, and I want to make sure that we say the right things at the end of the show. And that means that, hey, why not become a patron, support our show? You'll love it. You get a background every week. And also sometimes we have special offers, like you get this great mug. Anyways, we love your support if you can handle it. Thank you very much. And also subscribe to our social media. We have such great YouTube content. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram and all that good stuff. And the favorite is the recap email. That thing is awesome. It just has everything in it. All the links that you and stuff that will be in it from today's show, you'll get in the recap. And stay for the after chat. And I also want to say a big thank you to the team, Robbin Warner up there, show wizard, Stair Calhoun, Ambassador Buzz. Fennell Norton's not here, but good luck in school. She's pursuing. She'll be back next week, but she is in school this week. Heidi Dragneff is here, though, social media diva. And then Dennis Orsinger, our graphic designer, I want to give a shout out. She has been making great graphics for the Pink campaign and other campaigns. So thank you, Dennis. And Laura Martinez, our Zoom helpers, and our newcomer chat liaison, Michelle McKinney, and also our content concierges, Julie Galdo, Alvina Mikhail, and Sally Reynolds. Well, next week we'll be brewing another show, having a lot of fun. We hope that you will stick around for the after chat and be persistent and persevere.